Hello, folks. This is Pastor Paul here with a short pastoral word for you and a little devotion. I hope to record a few more of these here as we move through this time of the national election, and then also have several maybe reflecting on the pandemic and other things that are going on. But want to start out with some thoughts about partisanship, since this is the season when, if you're already a partisan, you're waving the flags and putting out the bumper stickers and all the rest in full gear here. And if you're not usually a partisan, this is the time where if you are going to vote, you do finally have to pick a side or at least some candidates. It's up to you if you're going to vote, though. It's time when we probably all think in those terms to some extent. And that's up to a point that's really good, right? We've got to, as citizens, we serve our neighbors by picking the better candidates, looking at different plans, and trying to evaluate what plans are the best for us and for our community and for our neighbors. So, by all means, engage. But pretty predictably, around this time, we're often kind of crossing a line with partisanship, and it becomes spiritually dangerous. So I want to take a moment to reflect on that, and I've chosen what might be a bit of an odd passage, but I'm going to read Luke 6, verses 13 to 16 for you. And when day came, Jesus called his disciples and chose 12 of them, whom he also named apostles. Simon, whom he named Peter, and his brother Andrew, and James and John, and Philip and Bartholomew, and Matthew and Thomas, and James, son of Alphaeus, and Simon, who was called the Zealot, and Judas, son of James, and Judas Iscariot, who became a traitor. It's a list of names, but there are lots of little nuggets in there, especially if you know these people. One name on the list is Matthew. Matthew, who was a tax collector. And so in Jesus' day, that means he's a collaborator. He's one of the Jews who have sold out to the Roman occupation and actually works for the Romans. Also, though, on the list, there's one we don't know quite as much about, Simon the Zealot. We do know a little bit about who the Zealots were, though, and they were the revolutionary group. They were the group who maybe was, planning to do armed resistance or some kind of overthrow of the Roman occupation. And I always find it just tantalizingly just delightful to see those two names on that same list of 12. And wonder, knowing Jesus a little bit, that maybe there was something that he wanted to accomplish with those two disciples in particular. Jesus told us to love our neighbor, but Jesus never lets us get by choosing which neighbors we want to love, right? We're called to love all our neighbors. The Good Samaritan story talks about what example does he give the enemy who comes and actually helps this person who's been beaten and robbed. I just wonder at all these dinner parties Jesus went to if Matthew and Simon just continually found themselves seated across from each other. Wouldn't put it past Jesus, I have to say. So, collaborator and zealot. This is all ancient history to us, but I'll say they had a whole lot less in common than Republicans and Democrats. And yet, here Jesus calls them to be part of this group, to be in relationship with one another, and to love one another. So, in our time, again, up to a point, partisanship is good. We've got to make our decisions and commitments and act on them. And we have to evaluate claims in terms of right and wrong. What's better or worse? But boy, when it comes to loving our neighbors, who's right and who's wrong, that just goes out the window. And it's all about relationship and loving one another as God loves us. So I'll leave you with a story that evidently was one that Martin Luther told on many occasions. And it kind of goes all the way, but it was centuries old when he told it. It goes way back to the desert fathers, the Christian hermits who lived out in the desert of Egypt in the early centuries of the church. And it says that one more inexperienced monk went out and found this experienced kind of guru, the older monk out there, a hermit, and had a question for him. He says, I've been trying to cleanse my heart and my mind, but I keep having evil thoughts. And the wise old monk says to him, well, think of it this way. You can't prevent the birds from flying overhead, but you can keep them from making a nest in your hair. And I encourage you during these coming weeks to perhaps think in those terms about partisanship and some of the darker sides of partisanship, that you can't prevent yourself from having those thoughts. And again, up to a certain point, they're helpful. But you can keep them from making a nest in your hair. That is, keep that from really taking over your life and getting in the way of the way we are called to be among one another and to live out our faith. All right. Well, good luck with that and take care. Bye-bye.